Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Newcastle upon Tyne Unitarians on this rainy July Sunday. You are very welcome, whether you are joining us here in chapel or online. You are very welcome here. This month is Pride Month, and this weekend has been Northern Pride. So today we're going to have a Pride service celebrating the LGBT community. It'll be a fairly historical service in many ways, because we'll be celebrating a couple of interesting people in the history. But before we start, I'm going to open with our chalice, with some words taken from the Unitarian Universalist Association in America. This is The Pride Flame by Linda Franson. We light this flame to ignite our hearts and minds, the spark of knowledge that enlightens, the shimmering hope that burns, the blazing love that engulfs our actions, the bonfire of our commitment. We light this flame for those who celebrate themselves, who fear, who hope, who persevere, who stand on the side of love for all. We light this flame for those who have been ridiculed, that they may find peace, for those who have fought to marry, that they may celebrate, for those who live in uncertainty in the world, that they may have hope. We light this flame to renew our commitment that no one shall ever again suffer for the right to love. We light this flame to celebrate our kaleidoscope of diversity, working, loving, and living on the side of love. For this, we light this flame. Let's take a moment to pray and reflect. Thank you to the brave souls who have gone before us, the pioneers who took the leap and lived their authentic selves despite the risks and the potential consequences. Although the path is not ended, we give our gratitude to those who paved the way to where we are now. Let us continue to work for the freedom to be who we are in a world of respect and love. So be it. We'll take a moment of silence to reflect on these people, if you wish, to reflect on what they achieved, to reflect on how it affects us and our world today. Or if you simply want to take this time to sit in quiet silence, reflecting on your own, go ahead. It's not all positive, though. So I didn't want to go through this service without drawing attention to the ongoing bigotry, particularly in Florida. So I'm going to read an article about Ron DeSantis in Florida, because I think it's really important to note that people like him are still popular and their attitudes are still popular. So this article is taken from The Guardian, written by Awa Mahdawi. It's entitled, "Are You a Doctor Who Hates Treating Gay People? Come to Florida, where Ron DeSantis has legalized bigotry." You know what I love about living in the US? Freedom. You can choose between multiple overpriced insurance companies to provide you with healthcare, for example. The healthcare companies, in turn, can seemingly charge you whatever they like for their services. If they want to charge you $1,500, which is around £1,200, for some toenail fungus cream, that's their prerogative. That's freedom. As if this wasn't glorious enough, the healthcare system in Florida has just had a new layer of freedom added to it. On the 1st of July, a new law went into effect that meant a doctor can look a patient up and down, decide they're giving off homosexual vibes, and refuse to treat them because interacting with gay people goes against their personal beliefs. The doctor will not face any repercussions for denying care and has no obligation to refer the patient elsewhere. I wish I was exaggerating, but I'm not. A few weeks ago, Florida's Republican Governor Ron DeSantis signed what's called the Protections of Medical Conscience Bill, which lets medical professionals and health insurance companies deny patients care based on religious, moral, or ethical beliefs. I should say as an aside, I have not checked since this article was written, just before the 1st of July, whether this law has actually gone into effect, but as far as I know, it has, because I've not read anything to the contrary. While the new law doesn't allow care to be withheld because of race, colour, or sex or national origin, there are no protections for sexual orientation or gender identity. The only bright spot is that hospitals must still abide by federal laws that require them to stabilise a patient with an emergency condition. In other words, you can't let a patient die just because they're wearing a Drag Race t-shirt. At least I don't think you can. It's hard to say precisely what is allowed under this new law because, like a lot of regressive Republican legislation, the bill is deliberately vague. It does not list which procedures are acceptable to refuse. It doesn't clearly define what constitutes a sincerely held religious, moral, or ethical belief. This lack of clarity is by design. Republicans love passing legislation with vague language because it creates confusion and is more difficult to challenge. It is also a lot scarier for the people affected when you don't have a clear idea what is allowed and what isn't. The journalist Mary C. Curtis has called the tactic intimidation by obfuscation. The American Civil Liberties Union noted that the new law means Floridians will have to fear discriminatory treatment from medical providers every time they meet a new provider, calling into question everyone's trust in their medical care. DeSantis has been a very busy man. In the brief moments he has not spent fighting with Disney, I'm not going to go into that case here, it's complicated, but he's also been signing a flurry of regressive legislation. The day before he signed his bill attacking healthcare equality, he signed a draconian immigration bill that makes life for migrants in Florida very difficult. He's also signed a bill that would ban Florida's colleges and universities from spending state or federal money on diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. It limits how race can be discussed on many courses. In a speech after he signed the bill, DeSantis told prospective college students that if they want to study wacky things such as gender ideology, they should get the hell out of Florida. He said, "We don't want to be diverted into a lot of these niche subjects that are heavily politicized. We want to focus on the basics." That's what he said. It sounds like a great advert for Florida's educational institutions, doesn't it? Come here if you want to study the basics. I'm not sure what the basics are, but they clearly don't include studying Michelangelo or watching animated films, since earlier this year, a Florida principal had to resign after parents were outraged that their kids were shown a picture of Michelangelo's David. And now a Florida teacher is being investigated for showing her class a Disney movie featuring a gay character. Maxwell Frost, who's currently the youngest member of Congress and represents the Florida district, said, "What this is a blueprint for people who want to abuse their power in order to target people who disagree with them politically. And that's what we've seen from someone like Governor DeSantis. What we're exporting out of Florida is fascism." DeSantis is 44, and as governor of the third most populous state, he's imposed limits on how race and sexuality can be taught in schools. He's even forced some teachers to remove books from their libraries. He's banned transgender girls from school sports. He's redrawn the state's political maps to favour Republicans. And he's attacked any business that disagrees with his ideology. And he's cracked down on the Black Lives Matter protests. Progressives dispute the assertion that his focus on hot-button culture war issues is actually working. Brandon Wolf, press secretary of the LGBTQ+ rights organisation Equality Florida, says he's selling a blueprint for hate and bigotry. Ron DeSantis is being honest about one thing, and that is that he's trying to sell the snake oil of his authoritarian tactics in Florida to the rest of the country, because as you know, he wants to be president. Wolf pointed out that beneath the veneer of prosperity that the governor projects, there are plenty of shadows in the state. A haven for retirees, Florida has the worst long-term health care for elderly people among all 50 states. It's among 10 states that have refused to expand Medicaid, a public health insurance program for people with low income, and it ranks 16th worst for healthcare among the 50 states. Cost of living is spiraling, and many people are querying why he is focusing on these culture issues when so many people are struggling for the basics. The authoritarian streak alarms activists who say DeSantis and his allies have pushed voter suppression bills to marginalize people of color, for example. His Florida model, they argue, would pose a fundamental threat to civil rights if exported elsewhere. Jasmine Burney Clark, founder of Equal Ground, a Black-led civic engagement organization, said, "This is not a state where people of color, particularly Black people who've been on the other end as targets of his attacks, are feeling like this is a model of success, freedom, or liberation. If you are invested in a world that is seeded in white supremacy, hate, and racist politics, then it is absolutely the perfect blueprint for the rest of the nation." Having banned everything in sight, DeSantis' next big project appears to be modifying Florida's Resign to Run law so that he can run for president while still serving as governor. It's not clear when he might finally announce his candidacy. Again, I'm not sure if he has yet, but I will tell you this, it is looking very likely that the Republican nominee for 2024 is either going to be DeSantis, a man who has turned the Sunshine State into a hotbed of bigotry, or Donald Trump, a fellow bigot who has been found to be a sexual predator by the law. Please feel free to scream. That also included some extracts from another Guardian article by David Smith discussing Ron DeSantis' policies. So I think let's take another moment to pray and reflect. May the hateful and fearful politics and movements that divide and suppress us further dissolve in the light of love, in the warmth of bravery. May we be brave in standing against bigotry. May we be loving in the face of hate. So be it. On a slightly more hopeful note, I'm going to read from a book by a journalist called Matthew Todd called Straight Jacket, How to Be Gay and Happy. It's an interesting book. This is just very short, but it's just, he has a message of hope generally. But it talks to all of us, not just the LGBT community. This isn't just our fight. Enlisting the support of straight people does not mean they set the terms or determine our lives, but it's not our right to exclude them from this movement. I sometimes see us attack straight people who are trying to be supportive because they express it in a clunky way or get the words wrong. We have to get over it. It is victim mentality. We need to remember we don't exist on another planet or independently of other people around us. It's about society working for everyone. LGBT rights are human rights. We need change from outside the LGBT community and from within too. We've all got to play a part. Our thinking, like that of wider society, needs a reboot. How we express ourselves, how we relate to each other, how we portray and treat each other. This isn't about becoming less gay or conforming to some heteronormative narrative, but about looking after ourselves, and treating each other with respect. I'm going to extinguish our chalice with more words from the Unitarian Universalist Association in America. These words are by Alex Swift, and they are a rainbow flag dedication. As you can see, we've got our rainbow flag out at the front. Let this banner be a symbol of hope, a blanket of protection for those who need it, and a cape of power for those who must be empowered. Let this flag be a standard of our conviction to embody all of these things and to be the change we will upon the world. Let the will we weave to empower and protect be woven into this flag as we weave it into the world. With our blessing, let all love be sacred, all unions safeguarded, and all people free. Blessed be.